I'm going to be watching the Facebook. I may put a couple questions in, but really we're just going to be asking Dr. John and Dr. Kelly some pre-set out questions, some interesting things that we can be talking about. And it's the beginning of the Christmas season. I hope you've all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And we're here December 4th. We're 21 days from Christmas. So we thought a great first question might be, or is, Dr. Kelly, Dr. John, what is your favorite or one of your favorite Christmas memories?
Dr. Kelly?
So when I was 9 years old, I got 2 amazing Christmas gifts. I will say them in a certain order. There really is no order. But my first memory from that Christmas was that I got a baby alive. And I am telling you, I was thrilled beyond belief about baby alive because you know what she did? She pooped. And that
thrilled you?
It was, I don't know, thrilling that I could feed her and I could change her diaper. Thrilling.
You could have changed your diaper without pooping.
Yes, well, I had to have some results, and so I did, and it was thrilling. But
you
the
had to have
other
results.
gift that I got was my precious baby brother. Was brand new. Nate Manahan appeared in my life, changed my life forever. Love him dearly. That was my 9th Christmas. Dr. John?
Mine was more recent than that.
Yes.
I guess it would have been about 14 years ago. And we moved into a new house. And our previous dog had passed away a year or 2 before. And out of our room, as the kids were sitting there, comes running this little white bundle of energy and joy.
Lacey,
who was just an incredible West Highland Terrier that we had for 10 years. She unfortunately passed away from cancer of the bladder, actually. And
she was the best dog.
Oh, she was the best
absolute
dog.
best
And
dog.
there are some pretty amazing stories about how when she told us it was time to stop treatment, it was not even a question.
Yeah, she was one of those dogs that, like many of our dogs, is almost human. She was awesome. And we all, including the 3 kids, still talk about how awesome Lacey was.
And I still accidentally call the kids Lacey sometimes. But
Yes.
Well, those are all really good memories. That maybe calling your dogs and your kids and getting all those names mixed up. But hey, that's kind of what life is, right? I mean,
Yes.
it's just living through the good, the bad, the ugly. But there are some wonderful memories and things that stick out of our minds. And as I was thinking about memories, transition. You see how
Nice.
I was thinking about what do you remember maybe the first time or one of the first times you started thinking about being a doctor?
I'm going to let you
I
answer
think
that
mine's
first.
probably a little younger
Yes, it was.
than you. When I was a young kid, still in grade school, on the weekends, I would get to go rounding with my father, who was a GYN oncologist also. And I remember, because I loved to do it, I would love to go in and meet the patients in their rooms and talk to them. And my other siblings were just like, ooh, no. Or if they had to go, it was they had to go. And I thought it was the neatest thing to be able to take care of people. And that was probably the beginning of me wanting to be a physician.
Yeah, mine was very much later. I didn't come from a family that had physicians. And my dad had always recommended that I consider being a doctor. I didn't even know what it entailed. And honestly, the first time that I ever even entertained it was when I was in college. And I enjoyed my science classes, my biology class in particular. And that was the first time that it ever even occurred to me to think about going to medical school. I think my memory of becoming very passionate about it was during my 3rd year of medical school when I began to do rotations in the hospital and really began to take care of patients. And that's when that bug really hit me.
A few years different.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But again, I was about 30 years ahead on that. And you were about 30 years ahead on your...
On my favorite memory
Yes.
of Christmas. Yes.
So as we go down, maybe moving a little further. So you've chosen to be doctors. We've told that story a little bit in the past. We certainly encourage you to watch other Ask a Doctors. But what would you, I didn't even totally prep you, so we'll go with John first, let Kelly have a moment to have her moments here. What would you change about your training? What would be some of the first things you would change? We've talked a lot about how you lacked nutritional training, but of your medical training, what would you change?
That's a great question. I think, like you said, part of it, we were so focused on the basic science that we missed nutritional science. We missed things like physical therapy, occupational therapy. But we also, one of the most important things we missed, and actually Dr. Kelly brought this into education for our residents when we were head of residency programs, was communication. That was never really approached. I mean, yes, we had to give some lectures and had to write some papers, but that's not communication with a patient. I wish we would have had more time understanding how to speak with a patient. And the only way you can really do that is currently, because simulations aren't even perfect, but is actually to have people critique real interactions with real patients and see what you could have done and what you could have said differently, and how you can learn to read a patient to understand what's going on with them. One of the comments that Dr. Kelly will often make is that if you just gave that patient another 15 to 30 seconds, they would have told you what was wrong with them. But so often we're so hurried that doctors cut you off rather than letting you communicate. In fact, we were specifically taught in medical school not to ask open-ended questions. We were told to ask questions that had a specific answer so that people wouldn't run on, but that's not communication.
Right. I actually wholeheartedly agree with that. Communication with the patient is something that I think Dr. John and I are really, really passionate about and try to perfect. One of the studies that this has actually been done, that Dr. John was referring to, is if you asked open-ended questions versus asking yes or no questions. Open-ended questions only took 30 seconds longer. And I'll tell you, when you ask an open-ended question, you get to the real heart of the matter. And you don't have to ask any more questions. You know what the patient's fears, what their concerns, what their worries are, so that you can try to alleviate those or formulate a plan that gives them steps that they can go through that seem a bit more controllable than the chaos of not knowing what's going on. So communication is huge. I learned a lot about communication and the importance thereof when my own mom had breast cancer. And it was a very scary time because her diagnosis of breast cancer was a bad kind of breast cancer. And Mom didn't ultimately succumb to that. But it was a very, very scary time. And so I watched physicians communicate with her. Some good, some not so good. And I watched what that did to her. And that forever changed me to think about my patients being my own mom. And that's a game changer. When you start to think about that patient being your own family member, then you communicate in a completely different way.
So what do you think, because I'm jumping ahead a couple questions that I had, but that bridges into, as a caregiver and as a patient, both of you in the last 5-7 years have been both of that for parents who we've lost parents, and both as patients where you're going through different things. What you can't have, a 26-year-old medical resident or 30-year-old fellow, you can't force them to be a patient. You want to, but what have you learned that you're like, man, I just wish I would have learned this earlier?
I think what Dr. Kelly just said a second ago, even though they may not understand it, it's something they will look back on and think about, is always consider yourself or someone in your family as a patient. And would you have wanted someone to react to your family member the way you just reacted to that patient?
Yeah, that's huge. Patients can come in extremely anxious, but often caregivers that are with them are doubly anxious because they feel like they can't control anything. They can't do anything to help their loved one. And so sometimes caregivers will maybe appear a little angry or a little aggressive. And if you just understand where they're coming from, they are trying to help someone that they love, and they feel completely helpless to help them. They don't know what to do. And so that anger or frustration or aggression, you can disarm that by saying, hey, I'm here to formulate a plan. I'm here to talk about the things that we need to do to help you on your journey. And that caregiver can suddenly become engaged in the process, helping activate that plan that we lay out, being another set of eyes and another set of ears to hear what the plan is, to take notes, ask questions that the patient may seem overwhelmed by. So a caregiver, we have been caregivers, and I was that for Mom. I was that for my dad. And you were that for your mom and your dad. Being just that, the eyes and ears, the watchers, the questioners, taking notes, writing down what the plan is. That's a really, really important piece on the patient's journey.
And even though, a young resident or a young fellow, all they want to do is do everything because they think they're ready. A lot of times, if they actually had taken more time to spend time with the faculty who are training them and actually with their interactions with patients, I believe they would have learned a lot more. Sometimes it's how to do things, and sometimes it's how not to do things or how not to communicate. And both of those are incredibly valuable. You can't, especially when you're looking at people in surgical fields, you can't just believe that it's your turn, you need to be able to do everything. You actually need to understand that a lot of things come with experience, and communication comes with experience. I mean, there are very few young people that have the same communication skills in their 20s that they do in their 40s.
Yeah, it's just because life refines you, right? It kind of breaks up those rough edges and helps you to see that this life that we live is challenging, and it's challenging for everybody in different ways. And that part of our role as physicians is actually just to care. Yes, we have to have knowledge, we have to study hard, we have to perfect our skills. But a big part of what we do is caring about people. And caring is communicating with them and listening to them, really listening to what their real concerns are. Yeah.
I think those are really good things. And as I was thinking about that, I was thinking, as you come off, and you're the second or maybe third doctor that is interacting with people after they've either been diagnosed or they're there's a good guess that there's cancer involved. And so what are the things that you wish when patients get to you that they already had known from, maybe it's their primary caregiver, things that you wish that they knew, or that it's the first things you tell? What are things that you hope that they would know that, that
I'll take this one.
are not earlier?
So one of the things that I almost always wish that patients would have known is that the symptoms that they had and that they were concerned about, they were right to be concerned about. Because a lot of times with the cancers that we care for, patients will have had symptoms for a long period of time. And sometimes the patients have kind of ignored those symptoms and said, well, I'm getting older, or I'm gaining weight, or
That bump down there doesn't mean anything.
right, or yeah, just abnormal symptoms that maybe they blew them off. But sometimes patients will have had these symptoms and will have brought those up in a variety of visits with the doctor or nurse practitioner.
And just an example of what Dr. Kelly's talking about, it's been documented for years that for a patient with cancer of the skin of the outside, what we call the vulva, the average time from when they first showed up to a doctor complaining of a symptom to when they make it to a GYN oncologist to take care of that problem is over a year.
Yeah.
And, they were...
So I always wish that patients would have been given that validation.
Exactly, validation.
They were right to be concerned. And yes, we give them that validation, but they're often frustrated, feeling like they had these complaints and they felt like they were doing the right thing, but somehow it was blamed on, an infection, or maybe abdominal bloating was blamed on a gallbladder, or any of a variety, indigestion, any of a variety of complaints. So that's one thing that I wish the patients had, is that validation that their concern about their symptoms was real.
When we're actually lucky enough to see somebody for their early in their diagnosis rather than after, often we see people after they've been treated, and then they come to us. But when we're lucky enough to see them at the very beginning or right after diagnosis, when it's time to actually treat them, I often feel horribly for a patient that they show up in the oncologist office and they're never told they have cancer. They're just given an appointment.
Yes.
And as a patient, I would be like,
yeah, this is concerning. Why
and
am
so,
I here?
That's why often when it's not cancer and it's they're here for a another reason, like it's going to be a difficult surgery, or it's a something they don't know about, or they have a lot of medical problems. Like there's a great story about that I could tell. I could tell stories all day in case you haven't guessed.
Oh, goodness sake, can he tell stories?
I mean, for an example, we had a young patient who was 20 years old who needed a tubal ligation because she had a very, very, very rare abnormality and had to have surgery right after she was born on her heart. And
so it was dangerous for her to be pregnant.
I mean, horribly dangerous. And the first 6 to 8 weeks were the worst time. And she had just actually had a kid and survived, which was amazing. And, then they sent her to a GYN oncologist for surgery. And she was like, do I have cancer? And I'm like, no, you're fine. This is not be a huge deal. You're here because we have the facilities around us and we do complicated surgeries on complicated patients. But she thought she had cancer, and it,
right.
Was literally a 15-minute surgery. It took, a lot longer for anesthesia to take care of the patient than it did for us. But I like when doctors explain to patients why they're going to go see another doctor.
Even if it's hard to say the C word, it's important as physicians to be honest and transparent.
And communicate.
and communicate
Hey, bounce back to that.
effectively to our
Yeah.
patients. Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little more, about the really choosing the right doctor. How do you, as two doctors, how do you choose your doctors and who's going to treat you?
So we are frequently asked, I bet you at least one time a week, we are asked, who should I go see? What kind of doctor should I see? Who's the best doctor in this field? So there are lots and lots of different steps to go through. And we'll probably have opportunity later on in the MG Wellness Life to explain a little bit more about that. But the first thing that I do is I look them up in general. I literally Google them. And I see what comes up. And sometimes not very much comes up. If not very much comes up, I might check education through Health Grades or Vitals. I don't check a lot of other things through those websites, but I do check where they've been educated and about how old they are. But I do Google doctors to see what kind of training they've had, and then we look at publications too.
Right. And one of the things is that often doctors, often for a very specific problem, especially nowadays, you need a very specific kind of doctor. What do I mean by that? If you have cancer, you don't just see a medical oncologist. A lot of them will take care of you, but understand there's a lot of cancers. There's hundreds. And nowadays they are so specific that there are specialists in those cancers, whether it's melanoma, breast cancer, or GYN cancers. There are specialists just for that type of cancer and not just a general medical oncologist. Or you don't just see a heart doctor if you need heart surgery. You need to see a cardiothoracic surgeon.
Right.
Or if you're having a problem with the rhythm of your heart, you don't just see a regular cardiologist. You have to see an electrophysiologist.
Right.
So we look to make sure that either the doctor someone's being sent to is the right one, or we find one that is a specialist in that field.
Right. That's really important because the verbiage is really complicated now.
It is. And I mean, we've seen friends, family pass away because their doctor did not know how to use the medicines that they were using.
Right.
And the doctors around didn't know how to use it. And we've seen that recently.
Right.
So you really...
You want to see somebody who has seen what you have before.
And
that's
seen
really
it
important.
a lot.
Yeah.
When it's possible.
Right. Right.
So in those circumstances, as physicians, when you don't know something, first time you've ever seen some type of symptom, a circumstance, whatever it may be, something that's maybe it's first time ever, or for sure the first time for you, what do you do, and what should patients want their doctors to do?
So I remember very specifically, we're GYN oncologists. We've published hundreds of papers. We've taken care of the breadth and depth of GYN oncology. But I got referred a patient, and we always, one of the things we loved about our former center is we got all the information, 3 or 4 days in advance. So we knew everyone we were seeing and we could be prepared. And I saw someone and I go, Kel, I don't think this person should be here. There's only one person in the country that this person should see. And she looked at it and she goes, you're absolutely right. So what do? If we don't think that, or if I don't think, I'll let Dr. Kelly answer, that I am the right person, I will literally tell someone and give them the name or names of who they need to see. And that's what you want in your doctor.
Right.
Honestly, is someone who goes, because people used to say, oh, I don't want a doctor that doesn't know something. All of us don't know something. I know that was a bunch of negatives, but no one knows everything. And you want to see a doctor that's willing to say, I don't know, let me talk to someone, or I don't know, why don't you go see X, Y, or Z?
Yeah. I think the first thing that I say is, I don't know, but I'm going to find out.
Absolutely.
And so there have been many, many times that, I don't know, maybe a patient will come to the office and say, at the center that we were at before, patients would come with printed out scientific articles of all kinds of new drugs that are out there. And many, 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 in fact, most of them are for cancers that are completely unrelated to GYN cancers, and maybe these drugs have never even been tested with GYN cancers. But these are medications that maybe I have not heard of because it's one of the other 100 cancers that are out there. And so I remember many times saying, I haven't heard of that drug, but let me go look it up. And I think that it's a humbling experience because as physicians, when we're in training, I think there's this mantra that you're supposed to know everything. And that is probably one of the most dangerous things to think, is that you know everything, because
Absolutely.
you will be shown quickly
You're gonna hurt
you don't.
people.
Yeah, you don't want to be in a situation where you hurt somebody. And so being able to say, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Not, I don't know and I don't care about what you're saying, but instead, I don't know, but I'm going to go find out. And Dr. John, that patient that he referred to another center, that is, he's my hubs and I'm biased, but I'm just telling you that is phenomenal care. And wisdom upon wisdom, because that is just not found very often. But you want a doctor who's going to have the guts to say, I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out.
All right, we're just asking some questions. Thank you those for watching, and we're going to finish up here in just a moment. But I want this one. I didn't tell Dr. Kelly, so I'm going to answer it for myself first. But it's the Christmas season. You have 21 shopping days, or 20 shopping days, I guess, till Christmas, and so I wanted to think about what are some of the health-related and or nutrition-related things that you would suggest might be on people's Christmas lists. So I'm going to give my first one. One of my favorite things that I bought in the last 2 years is my Fitbit Aria. It's a digital scale that's Wi-Fi enabled, and every time I get on it, it takes my weight down to a tenth, as well as measuring my BMI and sending it to an app so I can track it all. And every time I get on it, it's right to my phone, and I know exactly what's happening. It's a great tool. What are some things for you guys?
I'm going to go first.
And I may come up with another one here too.
My precious brother is technologically way more advanced. And so what I'm going to say is actually,
You want
I
an
think,
elf to help you do everything?
Well, actually, that would be lovely. But nutrition-wise, I'll tell you what. There are so many nutritional things that I could come up with as Christmas gifts for this year. But I'm going to say one thing that I would highly, highly recommend
Peace
for
on earth.
everybody who's listening, and that is a probiotic with a prebiotic and digestive enzymes. I'm telling you, it will change your life. I'm telling you, it will change your life. America is full of gut problems, and a prebiotic and a probiotic and digestive enzymes, game changer.
Yeah, we were just reading today about how gut health, and gut health includes obviously the mouth to the other end.
Yes.
And how they've now related bacteria in the mouth to the development of Alzheimer's. So people have questioned gut health for years, and leaky gut doesn't exist, and this is all hype. Guess what, folks? It's not. I mean, we know that gut health is related to the development of cancer. It's related to the development of things like inflammatory conditions, rheumatoid, multiple sclerosis,
Thyroid disease,
thyroid disease.
Alzheimer's,
It's related to cardiac issues.
ADD. Yeah, it's
That
just,
was a little bit of ADD there.
it was ADD.
So I
So what would you
agree.
recommend, doctor?
Peace on earth. So I would recommend that people actually decide to be healthy and not live for their disease, but live and help get rid of their disease. What do I mean by that? What I have seen over years of being in medicine, basically 30 years of being in medicine, is there are certain people that identify themselves by their disease. And I just wish we could realize that that isn't necessary. You're a whole person without that. And that if you decided to take control of your own health, you could be known as the healthy person instead of the person with
That disease.
that disease.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? If everybody decided to be healthy. Be great.
I was
To
thinking
try.
of a list of things to buy because I want to spend people's money, but you know,
iPhone 11.
I don't know. Health tracking.
Yeah. Well, it's got the whole health app.
Yeah, Health app and the Apple Watch. So I'm going to throw another. I'm going to ask Dr. Kelly here. How do you choose what a good probiotic, prebiotic product is? How do you identify? Because you can go into lots of areas. Another one I would say that I think is very good. Invest in a good blender. Stop buying the $22 one. If you can't afford it right now, figure out how you can save $5 a week until you get to either buy. I have the Ninja, and you guys have the Blendtec.
We have Blendtec.
There are others, Vitamix.
Yep.
But get one. It's going to cost you, I think, probably Black Friday. I saw one for $109. You can get them, but it's going to cost you a little bit more. But it's worth it. And when you're doing things for your health and you're blending something well, my word, is that a huge savings opportunity. And that's an investment in your health and just makes life easier.
Yes.
But back to the prebiotic, probiotic, what would you say?
So there are a lot of well advertised, well marketed probiotics. Yes, I just had a little brain pause there. Probiotics.
Less than she used to before she got healthy.
That's correct. That don't include prebiotics, but can sometimes make you think they do, and don't include digestive enzymes.
Well, give an example from
Yes.
today even.
So actually, we had friends reach out with a question about a probiotic. And the probiotic had lots and lots of live cultures of good, important gut bacteria. But in the ingredients at the bottom, it said something that might suggest to you that there was a prebiotic, which is food for those good bacteria. Turns out that that particular maybe prebiotic really wasn't, because the human gut doesn't digest up that certain prebiotic. So,
Well, it's not a prebiotic.
correct. It's not even a prebiotic.
Yeah,
It's made to think,
the human gut doesn't. And
Doesn't digest
we
it.
could give stories explaining how it
No.
doesn't. And all of us know it doesn't if you think about it.
Yes.
But-
corn. That's all I'm going to say is corn. But anyway, so there are a lot of probiotics. And I will tell you, over 1 year ago, I literally was recommending these same probiotics that now I know are not as helpful
Right.
as those with prebiotics and digestive enzymes.
And if you look at the old studies, before people realized you needed to feed the bacteria, which is the prebiotic, some of them came to conclusions that all probiotics did was go in one end and come out the other. Well, if you're not feeding them, that's what's going to happen.
Right. They are going to go in one end and come out the other. What we use is from a company called Arbonne, but there are other probiotics that do contain actual prebiotics and digestive enzymes that you can find online.
And what other things are prebiotics? Because you don't have to have it.
You answer that question, Dr. John.
So
This is not a quiz.
I was just saying, did you want to explain?
You do.
So prebiotics are what we call soluble fiber. You think of fiber like, it flushes things out. Or as somebody sent us something, a toothbrush for your colon. That was a real ad. That's not me saying this.
From the 1940s.
But
So if you
Real-
look up foods with soluble fiber,
so the best ones to think of and the easiest things are if you look at what class of foods, doctor? If you
cruciferous vegetables.
If you look at the cruciferous vegetables, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, kale,
But also things like black beans, avocado.
right.
These are all things with soluble. So soluble means
Red and green
it's
apples.
dissolvable.
It's dissolvable fiber. And even Metamucil, psyllium, is a dissolvable fiber. Those things are good for your colon because they're prebiotics and actually feed the good bacteria. Bad bacteria actually don't feed off it very well. The good bacteria do.
So all of that to say, probiotics, prebiotics, and digestive
And
enzymes.
by the way, I
bringing you
think
a happy new year.
we got the Blendtec blender instead of the Ninja because despite being a surgeon, the Ninja scared me with their blades.
Oh,
like
my
you could
word.
slice and dice anything versus
It's so powerful. It's amazing.
versus the Blendtec has two blunt blades and it works.
Let's
it
get
works
all Tim
incredibly.
Allen on it.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to mix my juicer in there and just get all kinds of blades and
I mean,
no blood.
You could drop in screws and nails and come out with a slushy out of a Ninja. They're crazy.
All right, so we do. I don't even know if you know this, but I did see this question here on our Facebook Live. Just started on ZenWise pre-probiotic digestive enzymes, but doesn't really give guidance on dosage. What would you?
I'll tell you what. I'm gonna
we
look
can
it
look
up.
it up and we'll get back to you.
Yeah,
We'll post
so-
it.
I'm gonna look it up because I
Yeah.
don't know that one, and so we're gonna look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is you're at least just starting with just trying to do something. We often the first step is just doing something.
Just
Yes.
try
to
it.
tune it in, get in your dosage, figure out what feels right for you. You listen to your body. What you were saying earlier.
Yes.
So often it's so important.
Absolutely.
We're gonna. Thank you so much. There've been, I don't know, a couple dozen that have watched and live. Thank you for popping in with us. We were just asking a few questions that we preset and things that I surprised Dr. John and Dr. Kelly. We are about to launch next Monday our first course. If you have watched any of our others, you've heard about it. We're not even going to tease it that much other than it's coming. And if you're not on our newsletters, you'll get a special email on Friday, mgwellnessnewsletter.com, announcing this new product, the new course that is being launched. We would love your help, your support. Some of you are going through things with you and your family that are going through cancer. This course may be right for you, but I am 100% confident that there are lots and lots of people that you're connected to. This would be a great opportunity for you to share what's happening at MG Wellness. But all that, we're going to keep giving you great information. So on that, I'm going to make my last question. They don't know what this last question is going to be. Okay, so I like to have some fun. Dr. John is really in charge of our Instagram feed. If you're in our Facebook feed, when most of that information, you're going to see some other stuff being posted here in next couple weeks. But he does all the information, the nutrition information, health information. He and Dr. Kelly go together and make sure that you're getting really practical. Well, we posted one, and I like to give a boost because I just like to see it because it drives people nuts. And it was about how cheese...
It got people
cheese was
going.
the most controversial subject in the world.
I thought it would be smoking, but no, it was cheese.
It's cheese. So, and here's the thing. I'm gonna say, what do you guys think? Why are people so clinging to their cheese? Last thing I'm ever gonna give up is cheese.
It's really sad to say, but this is part of what Dr. John was talking about just a second ago. If we could choose to be healthy, we would be
said
so...
if people would choose to get rid of cheese.
This is the deal. That's really how addicted we are in our American society to cheese. We really, really are. And it has things in it that actually make us want to eat it more.
And what's funny is if we go
amazing.
if we go back to when did cheese start becoming popular? Yes, there have been blue cheeses and Roquefort and Parmesan, Reggiano for centuries. But those actually weren't very popular in the United States. Mm-hmm. In fact, cheese in general was not very popular until the 70s. And what happened is...
Oh, it's all disco's fault, isn't it? Okay, now I know.
And bell bottoms. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Back to the 70s.
Yeah, go.
I don't know. I was going to say...
Anyway, in the 70s.
I'm not sure I could even compete with that. Anyway, so what happened is people started to blame fat. Mm-hmm. And so instead of drinking whole milk, and we won't even get into that, the companies started to take the fat out of milk. They take the fat out. What do you do with the fat? Well, we could either throw it out or, lo and behold,
we can make cheese.
We can make cheese. Mm-hmm. And it became a whole new industry in the 70s. And then they found ways to literally make it addictive. And it has been. Food scientists literally do it on purpose. And ta-da,
and here
what?
we are. And so that's why a post about cheese being unhealthy is something that's so controversial, because we're really posting about something that people do not want to part with. And this is the deal. If you don't want to, that's your choice. I think it's sad, but it's your choice.
But understand, this is the same way that smoking was treated in the 40s, 50s, and even 60s. I mean, they had the American Medical Association for a long time was supporting smoking. And then even when they stopped but didn't come out against it, individual doctors were on ads supporting smoking.
Well, and now we have doctors banding together and saying,
get rid of cheese.
Cheese is unhealthy. And they're kind of going against the grain in medicine, but I'm proud of them for doing it because the data is pretty clear. I mean, those numbers in that post about breast cancer, it's shocking.
And understand some of it, I mean, there's epidemiologic data that doesn't work, but there is also randomized control data that does work.
Yes. So that's why it's so controversial, is because Americans are addicted to cheese. So
I mean,
come up with a great cheese substitute like what we posted today. If you didn't see that recipe, first of all, super easy. Secondly, you can make cashew cheese into something that is firm. If you put it in the refrigerator, you can actually cut slices of it and put it on a clean burger, a bison burger or turkey burger or whatever, or grass-fed beef. Or you can thin it out with the water that the cashews have been boiled in, and you can thin it out to be like queso. Seriously, people.
And by the way, we're going to be trying this soon with almonds to see how it comes out.
We're going to do this, yeah.
We'll tell you if it works. If it doesn't work, you may not hear about it again.
And if you're lazy like me, like I was this past Saturday, you can just order it from Whole Foods and they'll deliver it right to the door. And it's queso, and all you have to do is warm it up, and it's wonderful.
See?
And you can get the what are those chips that I ordered? I don't remember.
You can get siete chips, or you can get benitos. Siete are made out of cassava flour, which is good for you, and benitos are made out of black beans.
And then you had some other cassava chips
yeah.
recently too.
Yeah, just all from every place I could get from Whole Foods.
Yes.
And I have to give this one last. So Sean.
And by the way, we are not sponsored by Whole Foods.
You're not.
Not yet, but I'm working on it. All right? It's connected. I've got a plan here. But Sean, I want to give credit. Said this. You Gouda be kidding me. Not for me. So
sounds just like Sean.
And we don't cut the cheese, but we're going to cut the cheese. Back to Dr. John, Dr. Kelly. Parting words of wisdom, whatever you have. Last words for the night.
I'm going to say, first of all, I would love for you to be able to enjoy the holiday season and be healthy through it. so that you don't wake up on December 26th fat and unhappy, but instead enjoy the season for what it's meant to be, which is not about cookies and chocolate.
It's about Jesus.
But instead is about the birth of Christ, and be healthy and honor him with the body that he's given you by taking good care of it.
Along that same line, I would agree 100% and say that a year ago, I was so, well, not just fat, but I was so uncomfortable in my own skin. If you look at the picture differences, you understand why. I think many of you, if not all of you, who aren't being healthy, if you actually tried it, you would find that you are so much amazingly happier. And it's not just from losing weight, but it's actually been shown that eating a plant-based diet decreases depression, decreases anxiety. So give it a chance.
Yeah. You would be shocked. And you would be shocked at how great things taste that are good for you. So that's one little hope we have for all of you.
One of our patients pointed out on one of our posts recently, and this was about the fact that increasing number of Americans are overweight, and doctors aren't even talking about it anymore, which is pretty unbelievable.
Right. They're just saying it's okay to be, over 200 pounds.
Well, if your blood pressure is okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
No, it's not. You're putting yourself at risk for so many other things. So
just try it.
Try it.
We invite you to. It's fun, and it makes you feel better.
You'll be amazed.
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of Dr. John, Dr. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for being part of the MG Wellness community. Make sure, if you're watching this, you probably already are liking and following the Facebook page of MG Wellness. If you're not on Instagram, you certainly should just jump on, follow one account. You won't get anything else. Just follow MG Wellness. It's MG Wellness 1 on Instagram. And on top of that, you can make sure you're getting our newsletter. Go to mgwellnessnewsletter.com. Put in your email. We would love to have that. On behalf of Dr. John, Dr. Kelly, we say goodbye.